throughout the series. So if you've been with us from the beginning, thank you so much for sticking with us. I'll introduce our panelists here in just a moment, but before I do so, if you're new to SharpSpring, SharpSpring offers the most comprehensive yet affordable revenue growth platform to equip agencies and small to medium-sized businesses to reach the right leads with targeted communication, win more customers with dynamic customization, and convert deals faster with revenue-generating features. We won't cover too much of the SharpSpring platform today, but we'd love to show you with a personalized demo. In fact, right now, if you complete a demo and you're signed up for the series, you'll get one of these exclusive concert t-shirts that we've had made to celebrate the series. Due to high demand, we actually have a second design available. These t-shirts are of the softest material, they're eco-friendly, and available in all sizes. So please go ahead, point your phone at this QR code here. You'll get to our series sign-up page where you can click yes to signing up for a demo. A couple housekeeping notes here as well. Our phone lines are muted, but if you have any questions or comments, we welcome them. Please post them. We'll do our best to get to all of the questions during a brief Q&A at the end of our session. Before we jump in, I'd like to take a quick peek at our lineup of A-listers. Coming up on October 20th, we have none other than Ann Hanley, Chief Content Officer of Marketing Profs. Ann will be sharing her expert tips for growing revenue through storytelling and content marketing. And just after that, on November 3rd, we have our headliner, Seth Godin. You're not going to want to miss those sessions. What all of our presenters have in common is they're rock stars in their own right. We define a marketing rock star as someone who prioritizes the entirety of their customer journey and thinks in a comprehensive, full funnel approach to drive measurable results. Now, this session is a little different than our others. We recently added today's topic to bring you relevant new research and fresh data insights that were just published. Joining me today is Matt Capel. Matt Capel is the Chief Business Development Officer of OCreative, which is an integrated digital marketing agency. OCreative has embraced marketing technology since being founded in 2003 and has been a SharpSpring agency partner since 2015. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you join us to share your firsthand experience on being a revenue rockstar. Todd Lebo is the CEO of Ascend2. He developed the research-based marketing methodology that is used by hundreds of marketing technology firms and agencies to drive demand for their products. Todd works with brands like these to deliver critical research every day. Now, why did we come out with this research report? Why now? You know, the world has changed. Everyone knows that. In the last 5 to 10 years, the digital transformation in the marketing world has been inevitable and has only been intensified by COVID-19. We wanted to equip our customers with, be able to react effectively to these changes. So we commissioned Ascend2 to really shine a light on the biggest problems agency and digital marketing leaders are facing as a result of all of this change, and in addition to determine where the opportunity is for the biggest gains. We suspected some of the results, but not necessarily to the extent that's shared in the report. With that, Todd, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Elise, and thank you, everybody, for attending today. Very much appreciate that. I'm excited about having this conversation and meeting with Matt, and just we discussed a little bit about the research and the findings, and I'm super stoked about looking at it today. So just to give you a little bit of background of the research study, we surveyed 187 marketing professionals, and those marketing professionals go over a variety of different types of marketers. We had the majority were decision makers. So we had 33% that were owners, partners, C-level marketers. And then we had 50% that were VPs, directors, and managers. So these were decision makers, those kind of really involved in not only the implementation, but the strategy of what they were doing. And then we also wanted to look at a variety of different size companies. So 48% were from fewer than 50 employees, and 52% were more than 50 employees. Another important thing when we did the research was to not go to the SharpSpring audience or the Ascend2 audience, but go to third-party panels to give us, that agnostic look at this topic. So what you're looking at today, hopefully you see yourself in this study because we tried to get that breadth of people to make it very diverse. We fielded this in July of 2021, and that's also important. We saw over the last year and a half with COVID and all the changes that resulted in COVID that a lot has changed in what I would say the pre and the post COVID era, as far as what how marketers are looking and prioritizing what they're doing. So this was done in July, so it's very, very new, and we just believe that this should be very practical for you. The webinar will cover ways you can make that research actionable. Research is only as good as how you use it to influence your decisions. So we're hoping that we can give you some reveal what we found, but also take it to that next step of how you can use it, hopefully to influence 2022. And also, the research should be a proof point for your strategy, to your leadership team, and to your team. So it should help you hopefully make your case, prove the point of what you want to do. One really quick example of that is a couple years ago, I was actually at a MarTech conference sitting in the lobby, and a lady beside me looked at my name tag, and she was from Oracle, and she's like, "Oh, Ascend 2, I just used some of your research last week for a presentation that I did for our executive team." So that was like a really good, made my heart feel good that she was using the research to, influence what she was doing. So we hope that that is something that you can take from this as well. We only have time to cover some of the data, so please download the report, and let's get started. So first, as we look at the next slide, wanted to kind of set the baseline here for kind of some of the big ahas that we found. Typically when we get commissioned to do a topic and then start going out and doing our research to kind of figure out how to, the questions to ask and how to ask them, we try to first evaluate the success that people are having. What are their priorities? What are they currently doing? And in this case, we wanted to look at first understand what marketers were trying to achieve with their marketing campaigns, and then also look at their challenges. And so first we looked at the objectives, and the survey question we asked was, what are your top objectives of your marketing efforts? And you can see here that the answers were more customers and growing revenue, which didn't really totally surprise us, but we were obviously glad to see that, and we could kind of see that overall marketers were considering that big picture goals with their objectives. So that really helped us initially, but we also asked for the challenges, and we're going to talk about those challenges in a few seconds here, but we asked the objectives, we looked at the challenges, and then we asked this question: do you feel, the question was, do you feel that a result of not overcoming these challenges will result in missed opportunities for revenue growth? So we looked at their objectives, we looked at their challenges, and then we asked them to think about those challenges and if that was impacting their revenue growth. And 76% of marketers said it was. And so, that was kind of like one of those points that made us stop and say, okay, if you can't identify your challenges and address your challenges, then you won't be able to have, the revenue growth you desire. And this is revenue Rockstars, so we knew that was really important. So that's what we found initially, and we identified the challenges. And so I think our first step here, and if we look at the next slide, will be to kind of look at those challenges and identify those, and then we want to go, I think we went one slide too many. We're going to look at the challenges we have, and when we asked those questions, the top three were generating leads, attributing leads, and the third one was attribution. So those were the top three. 25% said quality, 26% said attribution, and quality and quantity kind of go hand in hand. But I thought this is a really good point to stop on when we looked at the quality of leads and attribution. And Matt, I wanted to kind of get your perspective of this pain point, because this is, these are the 3 pain points that marketers identified. And I wanted to know how you see that in play as you're working with clients, as you're trying to do the things for your own agency.
Of course. Thanks, Todd. So definitely as marketers, we really rely on the data for making our decisions. And the data always needs to be reviewed, analyzed, understood to know what is working, what's not working. That's how we decide, where are we going to further invest, what campaigns we want to continue to drive forward, which ones we need to adjust or maybe stop completely. And so obviously the data is important, but without being able to attribute, you can't just blindly dump leads into the funnel with no record of where they came from. Attribution's everything. You need to know where did these leads come from, and we need to understand whether it's working or not based on where they came from to know which campaigns are working. We were kind of joking around too about it's a great time of year to evaluate attribution because everyone's looking at their budgets right now. So they need to figure out, okay, what's worked in the last year? How are we going to apply that? What are the best ROIs we've been seeing? And that's going to really drive where we're going in the next year. The other thing, we talked about the quality and quantity. We talked about, we all set out and say, you know what, let's go for the quality leads. We want the quality leads. But as it gets down to it and into crunch time, sometimes we start worrying about the quantity as well. But really, more leads does not always equate to more sales. We really look at quality over quantity. And this is, again, where we determine which campaigns are the most fruitful, which ones are delivering the quality leads, not necessarily always the quantity. And then let's expand upon them, learn from what we've been doing, learn from the data to understand better how we can continue to shape and adjust our campaigns moving forward.
Yeah, and when we talk to marketers, Matt, we see a lot of, the aspect of, if you can't give proper attribution, then you don't know where to put your money where to put your money. So, you could have, a source, a channel that's actually, generating high quality leads that you're unaware of. So, instead of spending maybe twice the amount in that area, you're holding back. And it's kind of, it's a cyclical component that you can have a lot of times.
Well, and I think too, it's kind of fun to look at, what is a lead worth to you sometimes as well as you're looking at the different campaigns and the ROI factor. I mean, what is a lead worth? And you might have a campaign that's maybe not generating that quantity, but because of the quality and the value per lead, it's well worth it.
Right. And I think the attribution can also, sometimes you find these hidden nuggets, right? These sources that surprise you. Just like for us, in the research side, sometimes we, there's data that surprises us and then we want to dig deeper. And I think as a marketer, you start attributing and finding that, oh, wait, this channel is really providing quality leads. And so you want to dig deeper and find out why, find out are there more, is there more availability there?
Definitely.
So, and I think the last thing to think about as we move on to the next slide is that, a lot of times when I look at the research and I can look at it as a researcher, as an analyst, but then also as a marketer, that is the fact that, the research sometimes, it confirms that I'm not alone in what the struggles I have. And so that can be, somewhat comforting to know that, I'm not the only one struggling with these issues, but then also motivational to finally address them. And so, when I look at the challenges and the fact that, these challenges really are inhibiting, marketers from getting that revenue growth that they want, it's a little bit hopefully motivational to, finally get a strategy to address them.
Definitely.
All right, let's move on to the next slide. And so this one here, we kind of took a deep dive into a problem that had to do with, I would say, tool both tools and data. So we asked this series of rating scale questions. So from from 1 being the worst to 10 being the best, we asked a series of questions to rate how well marketing tools enable marketers to do various data-focused tasks. And I would even push back. It's like, well, what tasks do we do as marketers now that aren't data-focused? So I think almost any task is data-focused. Kind of the bad news from this was the average was a 6. So out of 1 to 10, the average was a 6, which is quite clearly a failing grade that marketers identified with. You can see some differences in these 4 questions a little bit as far as like slight variations, but in general, they all fail. And here's the 4 questions we're looking at on the screen and that are in the report. The question was, do your tools work together seamlessly? A 6, a fail. Do your marketing and sales tools work to manage and convert leads? That's pretty important. Again, a 6, it failed. Do your tools achieve a holistic view of the customer? Again, it was a 6, it failed. And then the last one was, do your tools track customer data across the entire life cycle of a customer? And again, it was a 6 and a fail. So Matt, these are the major problems for marketers. But kind of what's your perspective from these findings and from your experience? A, is this a line? And then maybe B is this the end of the story?
It aligns perfectly from our own past experiences, even as an agency. Years ago, when we were working in marketing automation early on, we had multiple systems in place. We had multiple silos, and our marketing automation wasn't integrating with our CRM. The data flow was continuously breaking. We had duplicate contacts across various lists. Trying to update one of those contacts, you'd have to find all the various places they're hidden just to update them. And no matter what we did, we couldn't get it to sync properly to get the information flowing because we were in so many different systems and just didn't have a good option to connect them all together. And we were continuing to just kind of fight against it. And until we moved into SharpSpring, suddenly we found this holistic platform and we're like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Everything's in one place. The integrated CRM, just fell in love with it instantly because we had a much clearer view of everything. All of our data was in one spot. We eliminated all these silos, and then things were able to talk to each other again. So with too many tools, I mean, I felt that pain, and I know that everyone deals with so many different tools, and it's hard because greater number of tools presents greater potential for data loss or inconsistencies, because you have these little things are disconnected. You might not realize it, that 2 things aren't talking completely. Suddenly you lose a little bit of data, or a little bit of data gets siloed over here and you don't realize it because you have so many different pieces that are coming into play. And so obviously consolidating, I can understand that completely. That was a game changer for us. And really getting a proper tool that consolidates all this stuff together and eliminates your silos is really key. I mean, you talk about the data. If you don't have to go to 12 systems to pull data together and then try to cobble them into a report, it's going to save time and headache, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd imagine you were at a point where you felt like you were continually chasing your tail in a way and spending all your energy trying to fix and not move forward.
Exactly. You get too caught in the weeds of trying to correct something and fix it rather than actually being able to work with the data like you've been intending.
And we've done some additional data studies, and I think one thing that we continually find is that marketers realize the problem with their data silos, but sometimes it can feel like a pretty it's a big thing for them to tackle, and they delay and delay and delay. And when we've done studies and talked more in depth, like the companies who finally address it, even though it might take some time, it's almost this sigh of relief of, okay, finally I have like the tools in place now to move forward and to kind of, do the things that I truly want to do.
Yeah, and I think you and I talked about this, and I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but it's just evaluating those tools on a regular basis too, to make sure that they're doing what you need them to do yet.
That's right. That's right. Well, we'll move on to the next slide and look at our kind of like the third problem that came out of the study. And this really goes into the aspects that marketing teams are having trouble utilizing various types of data collectively to really deliver that one-on-one experience that the customers not only crave, but I think expect and demand now. So I think 2 years ago, you could say like it was a nice to do. Now it's kind of like a have to do, right? That one-on-one experience is no longer just a, wow, we're advanced. Now I think customers are expecting it. So we're not, any longer really marketing, one to many. The more personalized experience, the more success the marketers are experiencing. We see that in our research that we've done in other areas that really need to have that one-on-one approach to successfully move on. And how do you get that data to provide a one-to-one experience? I think we need to be probably a little bit more specific about that. You really need to start by leveraging your different types of data, your behavioral data, your demographic and firmographic data. You need to give customers content that is suited for their interests and activities. So start segmenting and personalizing. You need to have every customer interaction provide additional insight so that your brand experience becomes increasingly relevant across your channels. And visitors need to feel understood, which ultimately incentivizes them to return. So, we're in this game of, not a game, that's the wrong word. We're in this, time where, we have to earn people's trust and we have to earn their time. And if we don't, they're going to move on and they're going to find somebody who does value their time and who does look at them and understand, what they want and when they want it and all those things. So, it's no longer a nice to have. I think it's a, have to have. And we see here in the research that 59% of marketers shared that they do not have the data they need to feel confident about which marketing campaigns are working and which are not. So again, pretty sobering data point, but I think also pretty, at least Matt, I'll ask your perspective, but to me, this seemed very, very true.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, this is something that we work with as we're going through onboarding with our SharpSpring clients too, because one of the things we need to do is clearly identify, what are the key data points that matter to them individually, because from company to company, it's not always the same data points. And so we need to go through and really pull out of them, what's important for you from a marketing standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from a reporting standpoint, what is everyone going to need to see on a monthly basis for polling reports, because we want to make sure that we're populating those data points into SharpSpring, into the customer profiles or client profiles that they're building. And so this is really where we need that data clearly tracked from the beginning, because it's hard to go back and ever backfill all that data on all your customers or leads. So making sure that when you implement that, you're setting up those right fields originally. And then it goes back to attribution. Depending on the campaign, there are numerous ways to track, whether it be website visits or other forms of engagement, but it's often just a matter of some quick configuration. And sometimes we need to ensure that these are getting properly tracked and attributed early on when we configure the campaigns and set things up, because again, you can't go back and reattribute all that stuff sometimes. So, but yeah, it's a matter of just making sure you're tracking all that data and you have a tool that can do it for you. I'm a huge advocate of figuring all that out and making sure that you create these custom fields, because again, every client, every industry has different things that they're looking for and trying to track. Track off and track early.
Track often, track early. That's right. And I love, the word of feel confident, and I think as a marketer, that's truly what you're really, one of the things you're striving for is to feel confident in your decisions, as compared to, I mean, we used to talk about like, an email spray and pray,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Not a good way to approach your marketing, right? Not a good way to, identify your goals and hit them. So that's a really, it's a really important thing in attribution. Like you said, it's neat as we look through, and I think if you download this report and start going through, because we break out the data into, different segments, and so there's a lot of different ways you can slice and dice it and really find maybe how it can apply to your specific, organization. But I think one of the things would be, you start seeing how there is a strategic plan that you can start kind of recognizing, right? The data and the tools and having them unified and attribution, like it all does come together in a strategic plan as you start laying it out. So I hope this discussion, but also the research helps you to kind of lay out that plan.
Definitely.
All right, well, we're going to jump in and go over three quick strategies that we thought they came out of the study very clearly. First is 83% of marketers agreed that consolidating tools in their marketing and sales tech stacks would increase productivity and efficiency. I guess you could also say that and make technology work for you, right? And in that, I think you've hit on this a little bit, but you want to just dive a little bit more into this statement and how you see that playing out for companies.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I alluded to earlier, as an agency ourselves, we look at our tech stack on an annual basis and just make sure that what we have in place is still working. And if something's not working, what can we do? Is it a better integration? Is it a replacement? And just understanding continually what's happening with technology around us. When working to explore the platforms, this is the other thing too, is there's new technology creeping up all the time. So we got to make sure that what we're using is still the most relevant for us. Evaluate what tools we're currently using, where there's an overlap, where something can be eliminated, who's using the various tools and what are their individual needs, whether it be sales, marketing, somebody else who's in the mix, customer service, how are they using these tools? How does it affect them? And it's really a balance between performance and flexibility. You don't want to be locked into something that isn't working and then feel like it doesn't have the ability to flex as you grow and evolve as a company. How does it integrate with the other tools that you need? There might be some other tools that you're using for other very specific pointed reasons. Can they communicate with each other? From experience, no single tool will be able to do everything. And so find the core that best fits your needs. And by core for us, that's SharpSpring. That fits the majority of our needs. And we have very few other systems that we need to integrate with because it has so many built right into it. But really kind of get that core platform in place. That's going to be key. And don't have several different silos out there. You really want to have a centralized database that you're relying upon, and you're not trying to cobble together data and reports on a continuous basis.
Yeah, I like what you said about constantly evaluating and the fact that, maybe what didn't work in the past now works. The technology keeps improving, and we've seen that in our research where when we do trend data and we can see the companies that said, it didn't work for me 2 years ago, but now the technology's improved and it's easier to do. And it's, so we're always encouraging marketers go back and reevaluate.
We actually ran into that with one of the platforms we were using at one point. We decided to stray away from it because it wasn't growing with us. And then about 5 years later, circled back to it, and it had completely revamped itself and was actually a much better product. And so we actually went back to a product that we used, left, and reevaluated and came back to.
That's great.
Well, and earlier this year, we did a study, and it said we found out that 83% of the companies evaluate their tech stack at least quarterly, which I thought was, and a very high percentage said monthly. And really what I took from that was every time that your technology is being, so this is a shout out to, I think, tech companies, but every time your technology is being used, it's being evaluated, right? So companies may, they may not go and change it right away, but they're using it, and as the marketer, you're like, there's got to be an easier way, or
Yeah.
this always takes so long. So that was kind of like, I think there's a you're always evaluating, and as a marketer, I think you should always be thinking about, is there a better way to do this? I mean, just because I did it this way in the past does not mean I have to do it this way moving forward.
Totally.
All right, our second strategy. This one here was like, again, go back and fix the data problem. The data problem is not always maybe the sexy part of marketing. We love to write copy and do all this creative, but at the end of the day, the fixing the data problem is really what is the foundation for the marketing house that you're building. So here we saw the integrating technology ideally to a single platform will centralize your data and drive measurable results. Everything that Matt really outlined very nicely for us here. But only 51% of marketers are only partially integrated or use a manual process between their tools. And primarily, this was your marketing tools and your sales tools specifically. So that, again, Matt, you probably have a couple more thoughts on that. But are there any tips maybe how to get started with this?
My biggest thing is just making sure that your marketing platform directly integrates with your CRM. Having those two disconnected or poorly connected can be devastating. And so just getting one that is very integrated or very tightly tied together provides a much cleaner view of the customer from an initial engagement to the completed sale and beyond. It's hard to capture that picture otherwise if you're dealing with several systems and they're not communicating. Yep, integrated CRM, that's I'm an advocate for that.
Well, and 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, I mean, at one point, I think, there was maybe a reason to keep them separated. But then, like I said, again, you have to relook at the technology because now there are options and good options.
Yes.
So, and then the last one, is aligning sales and marketing. We talk about this a lot, but we thought this was interesting. Only 9% of executives describe their marketing team's ability to control the messaging and cadence of sales outreach as excellent. So again, that touches upon probably two things. One would be the alignment of the marketing and sales team just strategically, and then also as it relates to the alignment, the execution via the tools that they have. And so I thought that was a pretty important takeaway. And I guess I was going to ask you, Matt, just how do you fix this problem between marketing and sales? And I guess you said CRM is the first step, right?
Recurring theme.
Recurring theme.
I think it's something that we did see more historically, where you had very distinctly separate teams between sales and marketing, and you're seeing them slowly merging and getting much closer together with common management above them and stuff. And so really we need to get the two teams together early on. That's really what we need, is their collaboration. And obviously a system like SharpSpring is one major step in the right direction because of the integrated CRM. You have sales and marketing working in the same platform. marketing needs to be able to identify their campaigns for attribution, and sales needs to share their opportunity data. If you don't have those two pieces coming together, you're not going to see the full picture. But when you have both of those, everyone's going to win. It's an overall value of what that platform can do when you can see both ends of that spectrum. Um, one of the things that I love about SharpSpring is just the way that marketing has the ability to provide tools for sales to use within the platform. And I think that's one of the greatest things ever, is just I use smart emails all the time, and our clients too. But yeah, no, that's one of the great pieces that I love.
Yeah, I can't share with anybody now because we're still working on it, but we just closed a survey with Jay Bear, his team and our team at SN2 we just closed a survey on marketing and sales alignment. And there's some fascinating things in there already we can see as we're looking at it. So that'll be coming out soon. But this whole alignment of marketing and sales, I mean, again, it's all very strategic as we look at the user experience and how we want to treat that user and that holistic approach. That alignment is critical. So lots more we could talk for a lot longer, I think, but we also wanted to give some time to do the quick takeaways and then some Q&A. So here are a couple quick takeaways. And ask these questions to yourself and see if there's some things that you can take away from today to help. How do you rank your tech stack effectiveness in driving revenue? Do you have a centralized customer data in one platform? Is it actionable? And are you running full funnel marketing, which is really critical, especially as you try to be competitive in this current environment. So some takeaways to think about, ponder on, and hopefully we can use some of the information that we shared today and in the report to help identify next steps.
Lots to think about there, Todd. Thank you. We only have time for a few questions for our Q&A. The first one here, I know, Todd, you mentioned another study you're working on. I know your team does some incredible research. Just wondering, do you ever run similar studies over time? I'd imagine something like the State of MarTech report would be really interesting to see year-over-year data.
Yeah, we do. We do run trend studies. Actually, we're hoping that we can do it next year again with SharpSpring if that's possible. But we do, and what we typically do in that case is we try to have certain questions that are the same each year so we can see the trends. And then we sprinkle in, like what I would say, like, new angles or new variants of the topic. So we try to have both the trend data, so you can kind of see where things are going, and then the new things as well.
Great, thank you. And a question for Matt here we have from someone who's just starting out. You mentioned you've been doing marketing automation, of course, since the beginning and been using SharpSpring for a few years. If someone were just getting started in this space, is it better for them to start with marketing automation or CRM first? This person's wondering, are you suggesting both are needed or for them to dive into one as a way to kind of get their feet wet?
I am a huge advocate for both. Not that I want you to take on too much, but you're going to get a better end result, a better product. Because obviously, if you have both of them at once and it's a singular platform, it's going to be much better. Even if you don't have full like sales buy-in to start using the CRM side of things, I would still say both is preferred. And as the marketing side becomes an expert, marketing team becomes an expert on the platform, and they're able to show the benefits of it, they're going to have a better and easier way of getting sales to buy in on it, and obviously management to buy in on working with sales and getting it in place.
That makes sense. Thank you. We are going to cut our Q&A a few minutes short here. If anyone has any questions or comments, please feel free to submit them. We will follow up with you if we don't have time to get to, as we don't have time to get to all of the questions today, but we want to thank everyone for your comments and questions. That being said, I wanted to put a quick reminder for October 20th. Our next session is with Ann Hanley. She'll be covering writing for response and revenue, and it's sure to be a great session with a live Q&A. We'll go a little bit deeper into the Q&A that session. We hope to see you all there, and I want to give a huge thank you to Todd and Matt on behalf of everyone at SharpSpring and all of our viewers. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here.
Thanks, everyone.